50-year-old. I'll just give them a second to be seated. Yeah, shake them up good. That would be wonderful.
Are you our guest speaker?
No peeking.
Make sure it's mine.
Did you need this?
They just, I guess just the last one. 4255.
4255. Anyone? Woo! All right. How much was it?
It's 127.
Oh my goodness, 127. Congratulations. If Doug is ready. Was I If Doug's ready.
Marnie.
Marnie? Oh, Marnie.
Good morning. I'd like to introduce our speaker. Trevor ASSELSTINE. And I'd like to just tell you a little bit about Trevor. Trevor was born in Ottawa and raised in Sharport Lake. He attended Trent University in Peterborough for politics and psychology. After that, he moved to Kingston to be closer to his family, where he completed an advanced diploma in behavioral science technology at St. Lawrence College. He worked as a polysomnograph technologist, sleep tech, at the Limestone City Sleep Lab from 2014 to 2024, where he found his passion in sleep medicine. He's been with the Hospital Alliance Group for just over a year. The mission there is to bring sleep diagnostic and treatment services to the residents of rural communities in Ontario who would otherwise need to travel to access these services. He's been helping to construct, maintain, and manage 8 full-time sleep labs with a technologist staff of 34. And at full capacity, they have 48 patients every night. Outside of work, Trevor is drawn to film, photography, and music production, which inspire creativity and innovation in all aspects of his life. Trevor, please come in.
Hi everybody, I'm Trevor. So as Marlene said, I was a polysomnographic technologist for 10 years at the Limestone City Sleep Lab in Kingston. In that time, I saw probably over 4,500 patients, and that was kind of led me into my career now at Hospital Alliance Group as a technical advisor and quality assurance manager. I'm not much of a presenter, so I'll try not to make you guys fall asleep in the presentation. But I'll also try to kind of take my time. If there are any questions, we'll maybe save them to the end. If anybody wants to talk privately aside, just let me know. If you want to fire it up there. Perfect.
Turn the lights down.
Oh, it's coming up there. Just take some time. So yeah, today I'm going to talk to you about sleep disorders and healthy sleep. We'll take the depressing part first, and then move on to the less depressing part. So as Marlene said, our mission at Hospital Alliance Group is to provide rural residents access to specialized healthcare services. So working at the Limestone City Lab, it's in downtown Kingston, in the heart of Kingston, and and that's the case with a lot of sleep labs around. A lot of them are in bigger cities, and so people have to drive into the heart of the city and find parking and stuff. So our mission is to try to bring those services to everybody, to make it more accessible. And so, yeah, as Marlene mentioned, we have 8 full-time sleep labs. Most of them are starting to push into northern Canada. There aren't any around here. I think the closest one to here would be Hawkesbury, just south of Ottawa. But we're working on spreading, and we want to get as many people seen as possible. Now, I do want to have a disclaimer. I'm not a doctor. This presentation shouldn't be used as medical advice.
Sorry, pull the other curtain.
So today I just want to kind of give you some general interest education on the topic of sleep, and if you really have some sleep concerns, please reach out to your physician, and I'll kind of give you some direction as to what might be concerning and what isn't. I think for a lot of us, we don't ever think about sleep unless there's something really wrong. So, and sometimes because of how we sleep, it can be hard to know that something's wrong. So I'll kind of give you a bit of information, and hopefully I can give you some direction about what you can do about it. So to start, we'll start with the what and the why of sleep. So what is sleep? Obviously, most of us kind of know what sleep is because we do it every day. You just close your eyes and you drift off and you wake up the next day. But there's kind of a lot more to it than that. In sleep medicine, we talk about the 4 stages of sleep. You have N1 sleep, which is just the light sleep as you're drifting off to sleep. It comprises about 5 to 10% of the sleep. Very, very light. People who are in N1, you just make a sound in the room and they'll wake right up. N2 sleep, a little bit deeper, and it's most of the night of sleeping. What happens in N2 sleep is the brain will actually send out signals to block out sensory stimulus. So as people are falling into N2 sleep, you may be able to clap near them and they won't hear a sound. You may be able to tickle their nose a bit and they won't do anything, because the brain's actually blocking that out to keep the person asleep. Third stage of sleep is N3 sleep. It's about a quarter of sleep, and it's very, very deep sleep. If you wake up at N3, you'll know, because you'll be foggy and your vision might be blurry, and in this stage, the brain activity is very, very slow. And then REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, which is about a quarter of sleep. REM sleep is kind of where we do most of our active dreaming. So they used to think that people only dream in REM sleep, but it turns out we dream in all stages of sleep, but the dreams in REM are just more active. REM is the stage of sleep that's responsible for the brain repair and cognitive restoration. In REM 2, the body goes limp. Everything goes limp, and we kind of become paralyzed, and that's so that we don't act out our dreams. Now, as far as what sleep is, for all of human history, we actually had no idea. Up until maybe the 70s and 80s, where we started to really research the brain regions and what was happening during sleep. And so we kind of define sleep by what happens. And it's, we know that it's a biological necessity, like eating and drinking. If you don't sleep, you will get really sick, and if you continue to not sleep, you'll eventually pass away. And I don't think we really recognized how important it was until just the last few decades. When I was in sleep medicine, when I was a polysomnographic technology, this was what I saw every single night. So my job was to, at the start of the night, has anybody ever had a sleep study in here? Yeah, for sure. So my job was to put all the little electrodes on the person's head, to get them all wired up and say, okay, just go to sleep normally now. And my job for the rest of the night would be to just watch these signals. The brain activity, the eyes, the muscle tension, ECG, snoring, and then most importantly, the breathing. And what I was looking for mostly was the presence of something called sleep apnea, which we'll get into. But for 10 years, full time, every night, I would just stare at this screen and try to figure out what was going on. I loved it though. It's really my life. I'd say it's my passion now. So why do we need sleep? So the obvious answer is that if we don't sleep, we'll get sick and pass away. But there's a few things that happen in sleep if you're getting a sufficient amount of sleep that you kind of wouldn't want to live without. So sleep is important in learning and memory consolidation. People who get sufficient sleep are shown in tests to do better on learning and on memory puzzles. Emotional regulation. Sleep is very important in that. Sleep has been tied to mood disorders like depression, anxiety, judgment decision making. And also I'll add to that too, fine motor skills and reaction time. People who are getting insufficient sleep are shown to have lower levels of those cognitive abilities, and as such, it can start to cause problems in people's lives. Some things that we're learning about that are only happening in sleep are this idea of neurological pruning. So this one was a bit for me to wrap my head around. You kind of have to understand some pretty hefty neurology to know what's happening with this, but basically, the brain is comprised of a whole bunch of little connections called neurons, and the neurons have connections to other neurons. The neurons that you use the most get built up and become stronger in sleep, and the neurons that you use the least prune, they get chopped off. And the idea is that it's your brain kind of repairing itself, and it's your brain trying to optimize its use of resources so that it's not maintaining a whole bunch of connections that it doesn't ever use. So that expression, practice makes perfect, is literally what's happening. The more you do something, the better you're gonna get at it. The less you do something, the more it's gonna fade away as far as the brain goes. Sleep is also needed for problem-solving skills, energy conservation. So sleep is just restful growth and healing. It's been shown that growth hormone is released in high amounts in deep sleep and 3 sleep, which I talked about before, which allows the body tissues to grow and repair. So if you're at home lifting weights all day, but then you're not getting enough sleep, then those muscles that you're tearing aren't gonna fix the same way as somebody who's getting plenty of sleep. And even from day to day, we don't realize it, but as we're walking around, we're doing little micro tears to our muscles and joints and hurting things, and if we're not getting sufficient sleep, those things aren't repairing how they should. Sleep is also important in immunity, so boosting the immune system, maintaining the immune system. And I've read brain washing because I don't think there's a medical term for what this is, but the brain also tends to flush out junk neurotransmitters and junk that's building up in the brain only while we're sleeping, and it'll flush it out and then fill the brain back up with cerebrospinal fluid and kind of keep things running how they should. And so as far as why do we need sleep, there's this side of it, and then there's the other side. If we're not getting enough sleep, that it starts to cause problems. So the recommended sleep by age, this hasn't changed in all the years that I worked in sleep medicine. The recommendation for all adults is 7 to 9 hours. I would say that only a third of people are getting that. I think the most recent statistic was 1/3 of Canadians get between 7 and 9 hours every night. You'll see that as people age, the amount of sleep needed does tend to go down, but then it kind of bottoms out around 18. And then it's actually been shown that seniors, 65 and older, need 1 less hour of sleep to be optimal. So I would say the majority of people though tend to be down in this 5 to 6 hour range. But what's actually happening, and we'll get into it, is if you're not getting this optimal amount of sleep, then you're starting to accumulate what's called sleep debt, or sleep deprivation, which leads to sleep debt. We'll kind of get into it here. So the minor consequences of sleep, of poor sleep, which are, we call these the symptoms of poor sleep. Daytime sleepiness, morning headaches. Sorry, I can't see my writing here. Feeling sluggish, trouble focusing during the day, memory issues, decreased interest in previously enjoyed activities, mood changes, lower performance, and slow reaction time. So these things, if you're going to your doctor, these are the things that they're going to be looking for signs of sleep deprivation, for signs that you're not getting that recommended amount of sleep. And as sleep deprivation increases, these symptoms will increase too, in a directly proportional way. So, just with a show of hands, is there anybody who feels like they sleep poorly 1 to 2 nights a week? Now, of that group, is there anybody who feels like they sleep poorly every night? So you can tell, like, there's a lot of people who aren't getting a sufficient amount of sleep, and you can tell if you have a bad night. When you wake up the next morning, almost immediately, people can tell, like, I slept terrible last night. Now, I talked about sleep deprivation. With chronic sleep deprivation, it starts to push into a condition called sleep debt. Sleep debt isn't really like money debt. It's not that you can not sleep well during the week and then catch up on the weekend. Sleep debt is actually referring to the cumulative damage that you're doing to your body over time as you're not getting sufficient sleep. And it starts to cause some pretty major issues. Heart disease and stroke, risk of heart disease and stroke shoot way up for people who aren't getting enough sleep consistency. Diabetes, type 2, obesity, reflux, acid reflux, hypertension, mood disorders, and accidents start to really climb the longer somebody is sleep deprived. And if you think about it, so we think that approximately 1/3 to 1/2 of people are chronically sleep deprived. So what that means is 1/3 to half of people on the 401 while you're driving to Kingston are chronically sleep deprived. Machine operators, pilots, bus drivers, train conductors. It's kind of scary when you think about it. Like, people need to sleep. So there's some major disasters. 3 Mile Island meltdown, the Challenger shuttle disaster, Chernobyl, Exxon Valdez oil spill, where they've been demonstrated that these may be partially linked to people getting insufficient sleep, working long hours, working shift work, and just being chronically tired. And so I'm really here to kind of champion sleep today. I know it's pretty dark. It's going to get a little darker, but then we'll come back around, I promise. So in a night, the most common sleep ailments that we see can be divided into a few categories. Sleep movement disorders, parasomnias, circadian disorders, insomnia, and then sleep apnea. So sleep movement disorders, the periodic limb movement disorder, probably the most common thing I see. There probably wasn't a single night working in a sleep lab where I didn't see PLMD at least once. And what that is just a person's limbs, usually the legs, will twitch periodically. And it'll happen sometimes for hours. They won't be aware of it. Their bed partner will certainly be aware of it. But it's usually fairly harmless, but it's common. And it can cause problems because if those limb twitches become strong enough, they can actually wake a person up briefly. And with those constant awakenings, it can start to lead people to sleep deprivation. Another very common one we see in movement disorders is restless leg syndrome. This is where the legs will feel tingly or itchy or achy or twitchy when a person's starting to fall asleep. And it can cause difficulty falling asleep, you just be uncomfortable. Bruxism is another one. Bruxism is tooth grinding. Pretty common as well. People will grind their teeth in their sleep. And then of course, hypnic jerks, twitches and tremors. There are all sorts of just strange movements that people will do while they're falling asleep, while they're waking up from sleep. If you've ever woken from a dream where you feel like you're falling and have that twitch, that's what that is. And these are all things that are treatable. Your physician can treat each of them. Bruxism, they'll usually give you a mouth guard or a muscle relaxant. Restless leg syndrome, muscle relaxant, or maybe exercise. Periodic limb movement disorder, same thing. Or they may even, if they're severe enough, they may give you a mild anti-seizure med. For a lot of people, exercise is more than enough exercising during the day is more than enough to deal with those, but everybody's different. So if you think you have any of these, reach out to your doctor and just ask. Now, the parasomnias, this was probably what led me into sleep medicine in the first place. Parasomnia basically just means strange behavior in sleep. Parasomnias are the sleepwalking, they're the sleep talking, they're the what we call REM behavior disorder, the night terrors. A lot of these things are super rare. In 10 years, I think I saw maybe 1 or 2 episodes of night terror or waking from sleep deeply disturbed. But they can afflict people. Nightmare disorder is just terrible nightmares. Night terrors is waking from sleep terrified but not really having a concrete idea of what you're terrified of. Sleepwalking and sleep talking are pretty self-explanatory. REM behavior disorder is kind of acting out your dreams. So a person may be having a dream about being in a boxing match and their partner's lying there taking punches all night, right? Sleep paralysis is pretty uncommon too. Along the lines of sleep paralysis disorder is probably one of my favorite disorders ever, called exploding head syndrome, which is just a disorder whereby people will hear a loud sound and see a bright flash with their eyes closed. It's not real, it's generated in the brain, but it can be enough to get somebody up out of bed looking around at their windows, right? And then of course, the hallucinations. Sometimes when people are first waking up or falling asleep, they'll see things. And again, these things are, for the most part, treatable. A lot of them are treated with cognitive behavioral therapy or talk therapy or medications. Very uncommon, but they can cause some problems. The circadian disorders, so these ones are pretty common. Has anybody here worked shift work during their career? Do you have, if you keep your hand up, if you still have trouble regulating your sleep-wake schedule?
I'm a techie. I never sleep.
Very good. Same. Yeah, shift work is actually defined by the World Health Organization as a sleep disorder. And what it does is it kind of influences the normal balance of the circadian cycle, the body's natural cycle of sleep-wake. And it can be really hard to bring it back around. I worked straight nights for 10 years, and every now and again, I'm working days now, working for Hospital Alliance Group, but every now and again, I can feel as if my body is trying to flip my schedule around. So all of a sudden, I won't be able to sleep at night, and I'll want to sleep during the day. Narcolepsy. Narcolepsy is another circadian disorder. Narcolepsy is basically when a person, it can be with or without cataplexy. So narcolepsy is a disorder whereby a person is suddenly exceptionally sleepy and can't resist the urge to fall asleep. Narcolepsy with cataplexy. So cataplexy is where the body goes limp. And so you've probably seen videos or know somebody who has narcolepsy, and all of a sudden, they'll just fall asleep. They may be mid-conversation, they may be telling a joke, and then all of a sudden they're asleep. And that can look like them falling over or slumping over. It can look like them just kind of zoning out for a moment and then coming back. But it's fairly uncommon as well, but it's another sleep disorder, treatable, they're all treatable. And jet lag, even jet lag, going to a different time zone, can cause circadian disruption, and it can have a pretty strong influence on a person's sleep. I'll have to speed it up here. So insomnia. Insomnia is probably one of the most common sleep disorders. Insomnia is basically, broadly speaking, is a sleep disorder that can make it difficult for a person to fall asleep or stay asleep. Insomnia can be short-term, meaning it just lasts for a night or a couple nights, or it can be chronic, where every night a person is trying to fall asleep, or every night a person is waking up frequently. It can be primary or secondary. So insomnia can happen just on its own. It can happen just suddenly with no apparent cause, or it can be caused by something else. And then we speak about sleep onset insomnia, which is trouble falling asleep, and sleep maintenance insomnia, which is trouble staying asleep. So for primary insomnia, there's no apparent cause. A person will just suddenly feel like they can't fall asleep. For secondary insomnia though, usually there'll be a cause, there'll be something you can track it down to. So stress is a big one. Every single patient I think I ever spoke to who was an insomnia sufferer told me about not being able to shut their brain off when they're trying to fall asleep. Super common. It can come and it can go, or it can be all the time. Changes in your travel or work schedule, or just changes in your schedule during the day. Poor sleep habits, and that's a big one. I'll come back around to this. Eating too much late in the evening, or certain types of food as well, can cause insomnia. Mental health disorders, of course. Medications. There are quite a few medications out there that interfere with sleep. ADD medications, stimulant medications can definitely have an effect. A few other ones too. Medical conditions. Pain, super common for pain to disrupt people's sleep. Sleep-related disorders. We'll get into that as well. Disorders such as periodic limb movements, which I mentioned, or sleep apnea, is actually causing sleep maintenance insomnia, because sleep apnea will wake a person up every now and again. And with sleep apnea, it's stopping breathing during sleep. But the most harmful thing isn't the stopping breathing, it's the fact that the patient wakes up 100, 200, 300 times a night, right? Caffeine, nicotine, and alcohol too close to bedtime can have a pretty strong effect with insomnia. And insomnia can be idiopathic. As I mentioned before, primary insomnia has no apparent cause. So idiopathic just means, as far as we can tell, there's no reason why you're having trouble falling asleep, staying in sleep. But even if it's idiopathic, they can treat it. So cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBTI, as a former behavioral science technologist, this is my wheelhouse. And it's basically just learning to progressively relax your body and kind of change the way you think about sleep. Sleep medications, so sleeping pills. Physicians for a long time overprescribed sleeping pills. I think they're starting to pull away from it now and starting to look to other things like CBTI, and then lifestyle changes can all treat insomnia. Now, sleep hygiene. So this is kind of part of that CBTI, but it's also things that everybody can employ. These are the types of things that you can do every night that will greatly improve your sleep, ability to fall asleep, and ability to stay asleep. So having the same bedtime every night, and that includes weekends. If you can keep that same bedtime, same wake up time, it'll train your circadian cycle to know when it's time to sleep and when it's time to wake, and that'll control your biological clock, your neuron chemical, and your hormone schedule to launch wakefulness hormones when it's time to wake up, and launch sleep brain neurotransmitters when it's time to fall asleep. And getting enough exercise especially within a few hours of bedtime, can help you fall asleep better, can help you stay asleep. Avoiding caffeine and nicotine late in the day or right before bed. They are stimulants, so they'll stimulate you, they'll keep you up. And so if you're drinking a large double right before bed, you may have some trouble. Relaxing before bed is a big one. A lot of people will just go from the shop or go from the gym straight to bed, but you want to kind of progressively relax. You need to relax your body, relax your mind. Avoiding bright lights and loud sounds right before bed. So a lot of people will sleep with the television on or the radio on just for some noise. It's always better to use white noise that isn't people speaking. And it's always good a lot of us, we're all victims of this. I spend so much time on my smartphone before bed. But if you can avoid watching TV, using your phone or a computer or a bright screen directly in front of your face right before bed, it'll help you fall asleep better. And this was a big one for me when I first switched from nights to days. Don't lie in bed awake. So if you can't fall asleep, do something else, like reading, listening to music, or doing something kind of relaxing and calm until you're tired. For me, the rule was if I have lied in bed for 20 minutes and I haven't slept, I get up and I do dishes. And I always leave some dishes, right? And I don't know whether it was how horrible doing the dishes was, but as soon as I did 10, 15 dishes, I would come back and fall asleep every time. And sometimes there were nights where I'd have to do that 2 or 3 times, but it always worked. So now this is the big one, sleep apneas. So this was kind of my wheelhouse as a polysomnographic technologist, and this is what our sleep techs in Hospital Alliance Group are working with every night. So for a normal patient, sleep apnea, or for a normal person, normal airway stays open. For somebody with sleep apnea, the epiglottis, which is this bundle of muscle at the back of the throat, collapses and falls into the throat. And this is called an apnea because what it does is it blocks the airflow in and out. And this will happen, the airflow will stop, the blood oxygen will plummet. It'll send signals to the brain that something's wrong, and the brain will wake the persons up to tighten this muscle again. And that can happen in a mild case of apnea, that happens 5 to 15 times an hour. In a severe case, 30 plus times an hour. Every single week that I worked, I saw people stopping breathing 100 plus times an hour. I think the record I saw was 163 times an hour. So it's a problem. It affects about, well, we'll get into the stats in a sec. But there are a couple types. Obstructive apnea, which has to do with the throat. That was the one I just showed you. Central apnea has to do with the brain. The brain just forgets to tell the lungs to move. This can affect people with congestive heart failure, people with who take a lot of opiate meds. And then complex, which is a mix of the two. So this data was from 2014, which said that 9% of women and 24% of men suffer from obstructive sleep apnea. So about 10% of the general population. Back in 2004, there were 720,000 people who were diagnosed, and 2.8 million people who were suspected to be undiagnosed. If you jump forward to 2016, 2017 data, the number of people who've been diagnosed has gone way up. Where are we here? There we are. So in 2017, it was around 36.5 million people. Now we're about 6.4% of the population. population being 40 million. If anybody wants to do that math, I didn't write it down for some reason, but the number of people diagnosed has gone up. The prevalence has stayed about the same, so about 10%, give or take, 10 to 20% of the population is suspected to have sleep apnea. So it's about 1 in 5 people. Lots and lots. I guarantee there's nobody in this room who doesn't at least know somebody who has sleep apnea or have seen a CPAP machine. So sleep apnea, and it's scary. It's really scary. As I mentioned before, these are the people who are chronically tired as well. And because sleep apnea and all the other disorders I've spoken of will cause that chronic tiredness. There are a bunch of treatments though, as with all the sleep disorders. The big ones, these are kind of the big ones, avoiding the really big one for a moment. So weight loss, doctors will always recommend weight loss. Positional therapy, we found that people who sleep on their back with sleep apnea tend to have less apnea. Or sorry, people who sleep off their back. So people who sleep on their side tend to have less apnea. There are a few surgical options, uvullectomy. Before all of this existed, the main way to treat sleep apnea was a tracheotomy. So they actually just put a little hole. So we've kind of come a long way, I feel like. But yeah, treating allergies and nasal blockages. Tongue stretching exercises have become really popular. There are a few YouTube channels that have tongue stretching exercises that are supposed to cure sleep apnea, but the science isn't quite there yet on that. There are electrical stimulators. This one's kind of interesting. This one implants in the chest, goes all the way up into the throat. Whenever somebody has an apnea, it gives a little electric shock to their tongue, causes the tongue to move. And these are all things that exist so that people can avoid CPAP therapy. I know nobody likes the idea of sleeping with a mask on their face, but it is by far the most effective treatment. And how it works, CPAP is a mask. Most of the masks now are nasal. They're trying to pull people away from these giant full face masks. What it does is it just provides a little pressurized room air. So it's not oxygen, it's just room air. It's pressurized, goes into the upper airway and acts like a stent and just holds the airway open. And for people with obstructive sleep apnea, it's incredibly effective. And that as a result of the airway not collapsing, the person continues to sleep through the night and they'll find that their sleep greatly improves. I mentioned before there were a few different types of sleep apnea. The big apneas, the obstructive sleep apnea, they all have treatments. So if you're worried that your situation is going to be unique, I guarantee there's something out there that can help. There are all different types of machines. And I'm not here to sell the machines or anything. I just want you to be aware. This is what I've seen. The best treatment out there has been CPAP therapy for sleep apnea. So I mentioned before, why do we need sleep? This is the same slide as before. These are the things that if your sleep is lacking, these are the things that you can kind of improve by getting better sleep. And these are the things that are going to suffer by getting poor sleep. The benefits, as far as the benefits of good sleep, so as I mentioned, you'll improve all of these functions by getting sufficient sleep. And what I'm saying too is you don't want to oversleep necessarily. The recommendation is 7 to 9 hours for an adult every night. Getting more sleep over 9 hours doesn't have extra benefits. So 7 to 9 hours is kind of the window you want to aim for. But I'll just read these couple quotes for the benefits of good sleep. One of them is from the National Sleep Foundation. So for those who make time for and are able to get the amount and quality of sleep necessary, the benefits are well worth the effort. Those who are free of sleep disorders get the recommended amount of sleep and practice good sleep hygiene, enjoy more energy, more motivation, greater health, are happier, experience less depression, and live longer lives than those who do not receive adequate sleep. And then this quote, I think I just wrote myself. I'm not sure where it came from exactly. I can't credit it, unfortunately, but for a long time, conventional medicine didn't fully understand or recognize the consequences of poor sleep. With advancements in medical technology, we now recognize sleep as not just important, but is essential to mental and physiological health and well-being. Discussions of sleep have become commonplace in the doctor's office. Physicians are more likely to recognize and address the links between certain health conditions, atrial fibrillation, hypertension, Parkinson's disease, and sleep, and to use sleep medicine practices as part of a catered treatment regimens to combat disease and to improve overall health. So if you're worried about sleep, if you're worried about your sleep, and if you saw anything in here and were like, oh, my situation sounds kind of like that, it might be useful to reach out to your physician. So that's all I have. If anybody has any questions. No question? Yeah.
I know a number of people that wake up during the night at the same time every night.
So that could be a circadian thing. It could be that they've gradually over time trained their body's circadian rhythm to wake them up. But it could also be something else.
And how do I get
It's hard to say. Yeah, it's hard to say. You could try to go to bed. You could try just shifting your sleep schedule by 15 minutes. Go to bed 15 minutes earlier or 15 minutes later and see if that affects it. If it starts to be a real problem, the person's having trouble falling asleep or staying asleep afterwards, it might be worth reaching out to a physician.
Excuse me. Could you repeat the question when they asked the question?
Certainly, yes. So she just asked, what if someone is waking up at the same time every night? And yeah, I just kind of mentioned it. It could be good to try to change your schedule, but the physician's the way to go.
Do you get a better quality of sleep if you go to bed, say 9 or 10, and you get some sleep before midnight? Or can you stay up till midnight and then sleep for 7 hours, sleep well? Does that make a difference?
So the short answer is no, it doesn't make a huge difference, but our bodies the circadian cycle is tied to the sun. So it's evolutionarily designed we're designed to wake up around the time the sun gets up and go to sleep around the time it gets dark. It changes in winter, of course, the long winters, but no, it doesn't make much difference as long as you're getting the amount. But it is good to get up and get some of that morning sun in your eyes. I see a couple over here, lady in pink.
Is there any way to minimize the effect of jet lag?
So she asked if there was a way to minimize the effect of jet lag. Not really. Yeah, not really. So the best thing you can do is to try to shift your sleep schedule to the new place that you've gone to. But it is going to take your body a bit of time to adjust. And often when we travel, we're not necessarily traveling for a long period of time. So if you're just going for a week vacation, you may waste 3 of those days trying to adjust your sleep to the local place. Maybe the best thing you can do is to keep your sleep how it is and keep your normal bedtime at what it would be at home, adjusted to the new place. So if you go to bed at 10 p.m. and then you go to a new place, it's 4 hours back, you go to bed at 6 p.m. Right? That's probably the best thing you can do for your body. Yep.
Can you briefly talk about napping during the day?
Yeah, so she asked if I can talk about napping. So napping, from what I understand, wouldn't be harmful. I don't really have the science on it. I know that napping can subtract from the amount of sleep you're able to get at night, so it can make a little bit of trouble falling asleep or staying asleep at night if you're getting some of your sleep in the day. And I also know that if you're napping for more than 90 minutes, you start to get into the deeper stages of sleep, deep sleep and REM sleep. and waking up out of deep sleep and REM sleep is uncomfortable. So for naps, they've always said better to keep them short, try to keep them down to 20, 30 minutes. Yep.
If you don't have a physician, as many of us don't, who do you contact?
So to get a referral, I think for Gananoque, the closest sleep labs are, there's 2 in Kingston. I think there might be 1 in Brockville too. You can actually go to the websites of the sleep clinics and ask for, get a referral form. You print it off and fill it out, and then you just take it to any physician. So if you took it to a walk-in clinic or maybe even to Emerge department. I don't know about that for sure with Emerge, but for walk-in and after-hour clinics, I'm sure you could find a physician who would sign off. Yeah.
Is there any way to monitor sleep at home for those who know they wouldn't sleep at the sleep clinics?
Yeah, so she just asked if there was a way to monitor sleep at home. So there are home-based sleep clinic or sleep studies that you can do rather than going into a sleep lab. Those are not covered by OHIP the same way that in-clinic sleep studies are covered. So you'd have to pay out of pocket for a home-based study. But these things, smartwatches and other smart devices, are getting pretty good at detecting sleep stage and detecting things like snoring. Now, I wouldn't use them for diagnostic purposes. Don't use them as like the honest medical truth, but they can give you a pretty good indication of if something is going on. Maybe it might be time to go to a doctor. Okay. Last question, sorry.
What is the current wait time between referral and assessment?
So it depends on the sleep lab. When I was at MedSleep, they were sitting at about 6 months. I know the clinic in Carleton Place was 18 months, and our clinics, which are quite a ways west of here, they range. They're usually about 6 to 8 months. There are a couple that are 8 months, but it's just pretty wide range. Something to keep in mind of is if you go to a physician, normally they'll have a few clinics that they can refer you to. It's just a question of how far you're willing to travel. No, it's still up, yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Trevor, for joining us today. It was very informative, lots of really good information, and Trevor, I have something for you. First of all, this is your honorarium.
Thank you very much.
And I've also got, I don't know if you could still smell it, a warm loaf of bread.
Why bread?
Why bread? Well, bread has been a staple of life throughout history and is seen in its many forms in every culture. The breaking and sharing of bread is symbolic of life, peace, and friendships. This loaf of bread is given to you as a symbol of our friendship and in thanks for sharing with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marnie and Trevor. I think we can officially adjourn the meeting, but we do ask that you hang on for at least one announcement, I think. So I'll move that the meeting be adjourned, and Pam seconded, so the meeting is adjourned. I would like to invite Allison or Barb, who wants to talk about the Ontario Culture Days promoting arts and culture.
Hi there, thanks. So you may have seen there's a banner that's gone up on King Street promoting Ontario Culture Days. So the Gananoque Arts Network, the big purple building on King Street, we're hosting it again. This is probably, I think, the 3rd year, but last year we placed 5th in Canada. Just, I don't know if everybody knows that, because we had 55 events. This year's a slightly different format, so I'm just gonna tell you what it is. So this is happening from Friday, September 19th to Sunday, September 21st, so just a couple of weeks away. On the Friday night, there's going to be river myths and legends. It's all focused on the river at Muskie Jake's. And there's going to be some longtime Gananoque folks that are going to be sharing some of the stories of Gananoque, so that could be fun. There's also the art gallery opening of portraits at the Noel Bullock Gallery in the Gananoque Arts Network space. On Saturday, it's going to be all around Town Hall for the most part. It's going to be the regular craft market plus lots of artist stalls. There's going to be art demonstrations, dance demonstrations, all day, plus porch concerts all around town, porch and patio concerts. There's at least 6 that day. There was one on the Friday as well. And then on Saturday night, Joelstone Park will have 3 different bands doing concerts, so that's the 20th. And then on Sunday, there's a remaining porch concert, that one's Cliff Edwards, and then there's going to be all the events on the Sunday take place in Joelstone Park. So there's going to be, at the end of it, a parade of colorful puppets. So originally, we had planned to have a parade right down King Street, but things changed. I think there's some new fire regulations and stuff like that. So the parade will actually happen in Joelstone Park. If you have grandkids, bring them because it's going to be lots of fun. There's lots and lots of different events happening down there all day on Sunday, and it wraps up around 5 o'clock. The parade is at 2. So now comes my request. I hope you will come. But we do need volunteers. So if anybody wants to volunteer just for a couple of hours, I've left some forms with Barb because I have to run. If you just want to be in the info, we're expecting visitors from out of town. We've had signs on the 401, the signs at Mallorytown and I think Odessa have had big things promoting Gananoque. We're on the cover of the Fish Wrapper magazine, the Arts and Culture magazine. So if you'd like to help promote the arts and you've got a couple of hours to spare, we would really welcome your help. But if you can just come down and enjoy yourself, we welcome you as well. Okay? Thank you very much.
So the meeting is. Oh, did you want to say something?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
If anybody wants to go to Rockport, they're welcome to go to the barn, which is in the northeast corner of the village. You're welcome to walk your dog there. They have 38 acres. The grounds are gorgeous. Every year they're better. They have statues. They have it's just beautiful.
See you at the next meeting, folks.